See, the weather was quite similar last October 2023 as it is today, promising rain. In October 2023, I quit a senior role in a major banking institution in the UK. I deliberated over it for quite some time, but in the end, I decided to hand my notice in and quit. I needed to give 6 months' notice before leaving, and that was fine. It gave me time to think and consider and prepare for that time off. Hi. The questions that went through my mind were many, as you can imagine. And I've been thinking long and hard about whether to create this video, but I think it will be of use. I think it'll be of use to those that are considering retirement or a sabbatical, or indeed are already retired or on a sabbatical. These are things that I took both as lessons prior to leaving the bank and quitting, but also in the early stages of the 6 months that I've had off recently, and perhaps take it into a longer retirement or sabbatical if that's what I decide to do. Those three things, those three lessons I have, there's clearly more than those, but these are the three primary ones. It's the last lesson that I think is most important. That's the one I took more time getting ready for, preparing for prior to quitting the role, but also one that's made the biggest difference. So now it's raining. I'll finish this video when I get back home. That's better. So let's get on to the lessons I've learned from this 6 month period and prior. The first one is about not setting your expectations too high on finding the next role. Give yourself time, allow yourself to breathe. What I did earlier on is say to myself that what I should do is take a set amount of time away from work so I'm not continually looking for another role and stressing about getting that next role. So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to take at least a year away, and therefore that means I can plan properly to have time with my family, my friends, time to go traveling, time to do things that are not work related. They're not about getting that next role. I think this is really important for those people who are not sure what to do next. Give yourself time. Give yourself time to work that through. So don't go running after the next role, running to the next networking session. Spend time to think and set a specific time frame that you're going to do that within. And then you can tell people when they ask the question, what are you doing next? You can say, hold fire. I'm not looking at my next role yet. I'm going to take some time off and enjoy some time with the family, with friends, traveling. And that takes all the pressure away from the next move. Pick a time period. You don't have to say that this is forever, that you're retiring for good, or your sabbatical is just for a period. But it is good to say that I'm going to take this amount of time off at least. What this does, at least for me, it took away the worry. It took away the concern of looking for the next role. Always searching through LinkedIn, always needing to network. Took away all of that. And when people ask, you just told them, I'm going to take the next year off. That gets that conversation away. Also solves the question around, what are you going to do the next year? Well, you can plan things. You can plan ahead holidays. You can plan ahead visiting places. You struggle to do that if you're always looking for the next role because you need to be available, if that's the case. A friend of mine, he left his role, his job. I can't recall if he was asked to leave or he quit, but he didn't enjoy his time off. He was forever concerned about getting the next role. He didn't have any time with his family. He was always looking for that next role, networking, seeing what he could get, never enjoying his time off. Now he's got a new role, but he never got any time away. He never enjoyed that time because
He didn't set a specific period for which he was definitely going to be away from work and doing what he wanted to do in retirement or in semi-retirement.
So the next lesson I took during this period prior to leaving the work place and quitting, and in the first few months of having time off, was around my identity. And I've spoken to a lot of colleagues and friends, and this is something that they struggle with also. It's that consideration where, for instance, if you're at a party or a barbecue, you're asked the question, what do you do? And you consider the answer as part of your identity. I'm a fireman, I'm a chef, I'm a banker, whatever the answer might be, it's part of your identity when you describe that. And the key when coming into semi-retirement or retirement is reconfiguring and reconsidering the way that you see your identity. And sometimes that's harder than it seems. For myself, being an executive at a bank allowed me to speak with what I felt was some level of gravitas, some feeling of importance around the role I did. And moving towards retirement or semi-retirement, I had to face into that and work through, okay, well, what does that mean? What am I now? Of course, that meant I had to reflect on what different aspects of life I have that would allow me to say, actually, no, my identity is not wrapped around the work that I did. It's more wrapped around who I am. When I say it's wrapped around what I am now, then there's specific things that I enjoy doing that I gain real reward from. Then be that more exercise, looking after my health, be it doing crosswords, walking in nature, being with my family. All these things I found a great amount of value from. There's also the element, I think, more broadly of how you then describe that to other people. Now, often when this question is asked, it's asked by people who themselves might struggle with time away, will struggle to actually see retirement ahead for them because they only find purpose in work and in the identity of the role that they're doing. This is often a problem for those people rather than for you as an individual.
But they don't have an identity out of work. They don't have a purpose unless they're in their 9 to 5 or working hard at their job. This is not an indictment of you. This is more a reflection on them.
In the end, having a clear identity is all about having the confidence to say and the confidence to talk to the choices you've made.
But ultimately, your identity only you can define. It's not something anyone else can do for you. And I found that got easier and easier over the last 6 months.
Now, when I think about this more broadly, your own perception of your identity and how you describe that to others, well, frankly, it's none of their damn business. But if you choose to, then be confident in that description.
Identity, I think there's a lot to be said for just being honest. Say, you're taking some time away from work. You're semi-retired. You've retired early. Or if you have things that you enjoy doing, you're a cook, you're the main chef, you're a grandparent, you're looking after grandkids.
So, for me, what do I say when asked a question at a party or a barbecue? What do I do? It's a relatively straightforward answer. I just say I'm taking a year out. And that reflects back onto the first lesson I took. That closes down the conversation really quickly. It then moves on to what are you doing within that year? Well, that's when it gets an interesting conversation because it's broader than just your identity. You're talking about your passions, your interests, and it gets the conversation past the my label is my job.
One thing I spent a lot of time on prior to leaving the role, but also early parts of having left the role, was on my numbers. Knowing how much I needed to budget for, how much I needed to live on. And this was done through a number of different mechanisms. I won't go into those now, perhaps a different video on that. But the premise there is if you know your numbers, if you know how much you're going to earn off your savings or investment or indeed how much you had saved, and you know how much your expenditure is, then you have a good idea how much you need to live on, whether you can retire fully, have a sabbatical, or indeed just take that year off without any concern.
This was about really getting to the bottom of my insecurity about retiring or semi-retiring or taking some time off. Look, I know that I've been working hard my whole life to have sufficient funds to be able to retire. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you feel insecure about whether you're going to have enough, whether those investments are going to last long enough, whether the stock market is going to crash within the first few months. So this was the key area for me to get my head around. Now, I suspect that many people who move into semi-retirement or retirement, this is their main concern. So how did I get around this? Well, firstly, it's about the practicalities of running your numbers. I understood and sat down with Ingrid, my partner, and looked through our budget. How much are we spending on a weekly, monthly, half-yearly, yearly basis against each of the different categories of the spend that we have? And then looked at our investments, our savings, our expectation of income, passive or not, and then compared and contrasted the two. That was critically important. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't get the comfort that I needed to be able to say that I'm going to take a specific period of time off, irrespective of what offers come from other organizations.
For me, I've got pretty detailed spreadsheets of expenditure. My partner, Ingrid, she and I go through them every 2 months to see that nothing's going wayward. And it's given us real comfort. It's given us real comfort about how much we're spending, what returns we're getting on our investments, and then we can cover ourselves as we go forward.
Now, I will do a video on how I came to that level of comfort around finances and knowing my numbers, and I'll put it on the channel soon. But essentially, getting a grip of that was one of the things that made a real difference in the first few months. Now, clearly, that had been worked up prior to that period. I've been running my numbers for many years. But having that backstop, that understanding, that made a lot of difference to both me, but also to Ingrid and the family. So in summary, there were a lot of lessons I learned, both in the run-up to quitting, but also over the last 6 months. We talk about 3 in this video, and they are: 1, setting a time frame where you're not going to worry about finding the next role. This takes away the heat of always networking, always searching, etc., and allows you some space to actually plan some activities and enjoy yourself. 2, be comfortable with your identity and set it. Consciously say to yourself, what is it I'm going to say when people ask the question? And finally, the third lesson I took was know your numbers. Run your numbers, get under the skin of them, understand them well. This is what will give you confidence in this period to either say, actually, I can be fully retired from this point on, semi-retired, or indeed, I'm okay to take this year off without any concern. So I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed, perhaps left a comment with your thoughts and views, clicked on the notification bell and liked the video. My plan going forward is to produce a number of these videos around similar topics, and I hope you'll enjoy them. Thanks very much.